All right, so let's get started today. I have a fun-filled webinar for you, and I want to get started right away so we can have time for questions at the end. So today I'm going to talk, as you guys know, about the 4 things I think you need to do to get everybody in your office, use data to get everyone in your office. So that includes your coworkers, your executive director, your CEO, your VP, on board with website redesign and making changes and improvements to your organization's website. And just one housekeeping thing, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Just type them in the chat box and then we'll get to them at the end. And also I'm going to follow up with a recording of this webinar. So if you have anybody to share it with or you have to jump off early, no problem. You can watch it tomorrow or on Wednesday. Cool. So let's get started. This is a picture of me. I'm Emily Patterson, and I run a very small one-woman analytics consulting agency. So I work solely with nonprofits and government, and I help them create better websites, as you'll see, more effective messaging and marketing, and also reach their target audience. So I focus on helping them use their website and social data to accomplish these things. And if you want to hear more from me, my email address is right there. Just shoot me an email. I do a free 30-minute consultation. I'm happy to chat with you about your site and any needs you have. All right, let's get started. So I'm a big beer fan, so I picked this picture. But I figured that since you guys are all on here, and so you're all going to be familiar with website redesigns. And if you're familiar, if you're in the middle of a website redesign now, or you're starting one, or you've done one in the past, the big thing about website redesigns is they are not easy. They are not simple, like a trip down to your corner store to grab a 6-pack of beer for that barbecue that you're going to this weekend. Nope, not easy at all. In fact, a website redesign is more like a cross-country road trip in a car full of people, all of whom have differing, contradictory opinions about how you're driving, where you're going, all that stuff. So the one good thing is, even if you're on this sort of nightmare cross-country road trip with all these people, is we have this newfangled thing called Google Maps. It's I'm just kidding. Anyway, instead of arguing about whether you should take 95 north or 29, or whether you should turn left or right or leave at this time, blah, 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 you can, type where you're going into Google Maps, and it pretty much, can advise you on what's the best course, what you should do for your trip. And the even more awesome part about Google Maps, not to buzz market Google Maps here, but that it's a respected source by your passengers. And so if Google Maps says to turn right, most likely your passengers are not going to complain. They're just going to follow along. So where's all this going? I think it would be really awesome if we had something pretty much like Google Maps, but for website redesigns. So instead of being in this unfortunate position that I know a lot of you guys probably are as people, representatives of your communications department or your digital department, of having to choose between differing opinions about, say here, let's fix the site search versus, let's redo the homepage versus let's keep this content, no, let's delete them. Instead you have kind of a Google Maps-esque resource here. So you have this objective, reliable information that's going to help you make decisions, and even better, help people feel like, you're not just playing favorites. You have real information that will, serve as a good roadmap for your website project. And you guys benefit because it helps take the stress out of having to be in this mediation role almost. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how you can pretty much take data about your website and turn it into a roadmap. So it's going to help you get all of those different backseat drivers in your organization who have a lot of different opinions about what you should be doing with your website redesign, on board with the needed changes. Okay. So up first is our number one must do. I know this is a website redesign is a tech project, but as I'm sure you guys know, having worked on these, it's mostly really about the people. The technology is there to do, so much, nearly everything that you would ever want. The main issue is getting the people on board. And it's very important to understand your people, because you want to make sure that you're addressing their concerns and anxieties in your data that you're providing. So I've talked to maybe some of you guys, a bunch of people in the research for this webinar, and developed 3 main backseat driver types that you're going to encounter in your website redesign. And if you have any other ideas for any other types that you've encountered, just chat me in the chat box, and maybe I'll add them in next time. I'm just curious. All right, so our number one type, and maybe my favorite, is Ida. So Ida has lots of awesome ideas. She's cool, she's fun. She's up on technology. She knows the kids are into Snapchat because she reads Wired. She's great. However, Ida has so many ideas that really the problem you might run into with her is that it's tough to prioritize her ideas and make sure that they're correct for your audience. So, you might get into the spot where you're arguing about whether, you should spend money on this new widget versus fixing an existing issue on the website. So that's the trouble you're going to run into with Ida. Number 2 type of person is Sam. Sam is our self-centered stakeholder. So for Sam, where Ida is all about her great ideas and wanting to make sure your organization is up on the next cool thing, Sam is all about herself. So it's all about her program and her content. It's not necessarily about the needs of the users. And Sam, where Ida is often maybe your CEO, executive director, VP level, Sam can be your peers or maybe even a person outside of your organization who is somehow involved in it. And then your third type of backseat driver that I've dealt with is a Tom the tech blocker. So Tom's not so into technology. Maybe he has a smartphone, but he doesn't really use it. And so he considers himself all about the bottom line, and it can be hard to convince Tom to kind of prioritize your website redesign, or it can be hard to convince him to pay for the website redesign because he thinks, that a lot of these things aren't important, they're just sort of fads. So it's going to be all about convincing Tom that, technology and the site is vital to your organization. So why is it so important to understand all of these different characters? It's important because, based on what concerns people have, what things keep coming up, that's going to dictate what type of data we need to address these issues. So these are kind of your 3 main trends that I've noticed. With Ida, it's all about figuring out how to prioritize things. With Sam, it can be about reframing things so that they are in a way that benefit her, or perhaps convincing her that they are not such an issue. And with Tom, it's all about kind of proving that technology impacts the bottom line and convincing him that this is a real thing that, he should fund and pay attention to. All right, so now that we talked a little bit about our different backseat driver types and what are their concerns and issues that come up around website redesigns. With points 2 and 3 here, we're going to talk a bit about what types of data we have to address these different issues. So number 2 is going to look at data around what users are doing on the website. So if you're having meetings to talk about your redesigns, you might notice things coming up along these lines. So these are kind of example quotes from our various backseat drivers. So Ida, has a great idea about, focusing on the home page. Sam, thinks that the users love her content. And Tom is, saying, our users are too old. They're not really on their smartphones. We shouldn't worry about maybe having a great mobile optimized site. So these are all questions that are, all about what our users are doing on the site, whether they are gravitating to certain content, whether they have certain technological needs, and kind of, how can we prioritize different issues, different parts of the redesign, because we don't have an unlimited budget. And to address these sorts of issues, the data you're going to want to use is most likely from Google Analytics. I know, every nonprofit I've ever worked with has Google Analytics installed on their site, and it's a great source to get information about these user action type questions. So you can look at, what users are doing on your site. So this can be everything from what content they're using to, if you have a more advanced implementation, what sorts of actions are they taking on the site. You can also see a bit about them, like demographic reporting, where they're coming from, where they're located, what's their browser, that sort of stuff, to answer, some of those other questions. So those are the 2 key things here. So we're actions and user information as it applies to the website. So the 2 key things to know about Google Analytics, it has 2 big limitations here. So number 1 is that anything that's not tracked on Google, so if you, so it depends on having the tracking code on the website. And if you are, redesigning and you need data on something, but you don't have that set up to track, then unfortunately, you're out of luck. You're going to have to find another way to get that information. And the other thing is that Google Analytics data does not address kind of the lighter side, the softer side of things. It doesn't look at why users are doing something and, kind of what are their wants and desires around the website. So this why question is something we're going to look at in the next section. So we just talked about how we can get data to address, what users are actually doing on the site. Now we're going to talk about how to get data to look at what they would want from the website. So this is very important to have when you're looking at how to do, how to make change, whether to make changes and develop new features in your site redesign. So again, here's back to our backseat drivers, and these are some questions that you might be getting from some questions or concerns that you might be getting from your backseat drivers that you could answer with we're going to talk about next, which is survey data. So here we have Sam and Tom pretty much talking about our user wants here. They're saying, that users want this content, or they don't want that feature, or they don't care about that feature. Well, this is something you could easily ask in a website survey to answer these concerns. Ida here has this great idea that all of our users are on Twitter. So this is something, social media use, feelings about donations, feelings about things, outside of the website are things we can't really get out of Google Analytics. So this is another type of data that we could easily get from a survey to ask users about, what types of social media are they using, other organizations they might be involved in, what are their roles outside of the organization, that sort of thing. All right, so as I mentioned before, this section talks about survey data. So survey data is not looking at actions for the site, it's looking at users' wants for the site. So this is where you might ask people, what sort of features they would like to see, what sorts of improvements they would like to see, that sort of thing. All right. So just with Google Analytics, there's unfortunately some drawbacks with using these types of data. The same goes with surveys. Just the great point about surveys is that it's a great way to find out what users want. Unfortunately, it's also a great way to find out what users want to tell you. Just like when you receive a Christmas present and it's not necessarily what you want, you might give unfortunately untrue feedback and tell the gift giver that you love it when that's in fact not true. The same goes with surveys. You have to be very careful with how you phrase your questions, because you might end up with users telling you stuff that's not necessarily true. It might be that they don't understand the questions. It might be that they feel like you're fishing for a particular answer. There's lots of foibles here, so you have to be very careful. All right, and then number 4 takeaway. So in section number 1, we talked about who are our big backseat drivers that we have to contend with. In section 2 and 3, we talked about the different types of data that we can use to appease their various concerns. And then the big thing here, though, in section number 4 is how to take all that data we collected and turn it into a format that people can really use, to make decisions. So just like with your Google Maps app, you're not seeing the raw GPS data. You're not, every time you go on a trip, you're not downloading a giant spreadsheet. You have to have data that's in a format so that people, can actually use it. And this can be a bit challenging, actually. So this is my grumpy cat, my data grumpy cat. I've used him before in other presentations because I want to make the point that though I love data so much, I've made a whole career out of it here and have this company, I realize that not everyone loves data. And especially who doesn't really love data, it can be people in, kind of non-technical professions, and also, unfortunately, not everybody. I should generalize here. The people who are in your senior staff C-suite sort of roles. So they might just not have the time for it. But they're often the people who really don't want to be overwhelmed with lots of charts and a big spreadsheet. So this section contains some tips about how you can use other methods to present your data in such a way that you can really get the action and the results that you want out of it. So number 1 is to use your words. So this is the sort of result that you would get out of a survey. This is a real project that I worked on, but unfortunately just made up data here. So this was around whether or not the organization should spend time fixing their site search. And senior staff was having trouble. They're arguing amongst themselves, just like I said before, about whether this was as big of an issue as some people seem to think it was. So I did a survey for them, and this was similar. Not everybody on the site reported using the survey, but of those who reported, not everyone on the site used the site search, but of those who used the site search, most of them had issues with it. So this was, kind of convoluted to report. Certainly, charts and other ways of portraying this is better. But one thing that really helped win people over was taking responses from the open ends, so those questions that are at the end of the survey, and adding them into the presentation, so the senior staff members could really see in users' own words how frustrating the site search was. So yeah, a lot of times what I'll do is add these, take the data points and the quotes that back up the data, and be sure to add these quotes into the presentation, so the CEO, the VPs can really see users speaking for themselves. And don't worry, people will always tell you what you think. I've never had a problem with getting good quotes from surveys. All right. The next thing here is to get visual. So this is a heat map. There's also a cool tool called a scroll map. And I know a lot of data people, myself included, kind of look down on this as being overly simplistic. But I've had a lot of luck with using these heat and scroll maps, because they're super visual and they get people who are like, your head of marketing, these sorts of people, to really visualize how users use the site. And so this can help diffuse, just like the quotes from the survey, help make a case to fix the site search. These images, can help prioritize certain, sections of your site or certain sections of the page. So if you're having a debate about whether it makes sense to spend a lot of money on, a fancy widget towards the bottom of your homepage, this can really help make the case that, no, most people aren't even scrolling to the bottom of the page. We shouldn't invest a lot of time there. So it's definitely, can help with your sort of IDA prioritization issues, and make sure that you're focusing on the same parts of the site that your users are focusing on. All right, and the last tip about, portraying your data in kind of a more user-friendly way is to use user testing videos. So if been involved with user testing before, chances are you may have used it in the more traditional way. So you design your site, and then you test to make sure that your visitors are able to accomplish what they need to accomplish on the website, that they don't have any problems or roadblocks in the way. I've definitely also used user testing to good effect by using it to get insight into users' thought processes. So if you're seeing something weird in the survey data or the Google Analytics data, user testing is a great way to ask why and get insight that way. But more along the threads of this point, it's can be a great way to get videos and user feedback to share with, again, that's the senior staff people. It's one thing to give them a data point. It's another thing to show them a video of how frustrated a user is when they're, trying to navigate through the site. This would be a great way to get them on board, especially like a Tom here, to devote time and resources to fixing these issues. All right, so that's the end of this for right now. I just wanted to recap your four big must-dos to have a smart data-driven redesign. Number one is to know your backseat drivers, understand the different personalities at play, and like what are their different concerns and how can you best address them. Definitely don't underestimate the people involved here. Then 2 and 3 are, use data to understand, both how visitors are currently using your site, and then also what they would want to see for the future. And this includes what they would want fixed, improvements that they would want, and maybe additional features. And then number 4 is, don't just take that data that you collected and put it in a bunch of bullet points or a bunch of charts or whatever. Make sure that you're catering to the audience that doesn't even like data, and make it accessible so that they can process it and make decisions from it. So that's everything I have for today, though you're welcome. We're right at the half-hour mark. You're welcome to ask me any questions, and we'll address them in the next 5 minutes or so. But yeah, if you're having trouble with your website, and you want to make sure that you get everyone on board and you have a good plan that really addresses the issues with your current design, please reach out to me. My email address is right here, emily@bmeasure.com, and I'm happy to jump on the phone with you to kind of talk through this. And that's cool. That's everything I have. Unless anyone has any questions, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Cool. Nobody? All right. Cool. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys. No problem. I'm going to post this online on my website and send out the link so that you will have it if you would like to share it with your coworkers or anything.